Hi, everybody. How are you doing? I'm Dr. Gail, and this is Barbara Lamb. Thanks, Barbara, for joining us today. And if you,
Easy. Welcome.
it's always a pleasure to have you. If you give everybody a little background about what you do, and then we're going to go into hybrids. If you just give everybody a little background as they're coming in.
Okay. Well, for many years, I was in practice as a licensed psychotherapist. And then in about 1985, I got involved in being trained to do past life regression therapy. And in 1991, I started working in hypnotic regressions with people who came who were wondering about or sensing that they had had encounters with extraterrestrial beings. So I've been doing that work primarily since 1991 and gave up my therapy practice eventually to concentrate totally on doing these regressions because they seem to be so welcomed by people and so helpful. And and during that whole many years, including now, I'm still doing this work with people in person and online. And I discovered some other unusual things that were happening or were happening to people who were having extraterrestrial encounters. And that is, I was discovering that there was such a thing as a walk in.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop you there for a minute, Barbara, because Lisa has a great question for you. She says, "Hi, ladies. Barbara, how do you choose your clients?"
Well, the clients choose me. And over the years, since 1991, I've done a number of these podcasts and in person lectures. And, so people have been able to find out about me. So people going to those events or listening to those podcasts sometimes are people who have had these unusual experiences and they're wondering about it and they've never known who to talk to about it. So they very often will come because of that, becoming acquainted with me and my work in that way.
Yeah.
So,
How I found out about you was from somebody. It was Rebecca Hardcastle that recommended me going to you.
oh, very good. Yes, I would recommend people going to her too. She's excellent, doing some really wonderful work. So, we just get to know each other. Those of us professionals who are interested in these topics. Uh, we're often speakers at conferences, and we get to meet each other. And it's always so rewarding to me to meet other people who are interested in this sort of thing, who really are wondering about the cosmos and space, and do some of those visitors actually come here, and do they take people away for a while? Yes, indeed. I'm totally convinced that they do.
Yes. Well,
And
let me say hello to a few people who are coming in, Barbara, and then we're going to get into the subject. At first, I want to put up here Teresa. Thank you. She's saying, "Greetings, Galactic Tribe and ladies. Please remember to like and subscribe to both channels. Do appreciate it." Barbara has her own channel also, Barbara Lamb, and she does regression therapy, specializing in extraterrestrial encounters. But let's see who all's here. So no, go up here to the top and say hello to some people. Hey, Duchess daughter will be doing the Slayer Healing Center on Saturday, so that question will be appropriate for that show. Hey, Faye Cole. Hey, MEJ. Thanks for being here. Hey, Rossi. Hey, Oxford Cat. Thanks for being here. And Teresa, of course, thanks for being here. Son of Watt. Thanks for joining us. And Mary and hey, Hypnicity. Thanks everybody for being here. Mary, you're from St. Paul, Minnesota. Hey, Kathleen, thanks for being here. Appreciate everybody for joining us. And we're going to be talking about walk-ins today. And Barbara's going to tell us she has recently written a book with Sheila Seppi about them. And so I'm going to go ahead and let you start about walk-ins, Barbara.
Okay. Well, walk-ins is something that I never heard of ever until about 1991 or 1992, when I was at a conference and talked to a mother and father of a young woman. And the mother and father were very confused because they said that one day suddenly their daughter at breakfast seemed to be completely different than she had all the years before that. I think she was around 26 years old. And she had been interested in just regular old things that many of the young people are interested in, and very materialistically oriented, and wanted to really earn a lot of money and have all the good things, that she saw in the ads. And that's what her big motivation was. But suddenly, that one morning at breakfast, she was talking about entirely different things. She was talking about how she really wanted to be able to obtain a property and develop a metaphysical bookstore emphasizing spirituality. And she'd want that facility to have a meeting room so that she could give lectures about spirituality, about space, about metaphysics. And so her parents were just dumbfounded and wonder how could she just overnight change like that? And she couldn't explain it either. She just said, well, I don't know, but this is what I really feel very deeply moved to do. And so they were puzzled. And I think even she was puzzled. And at that same conference, the daughter was there. And so I met with her and talked with her and did a regression with her. And sure enough, it turned out that she was a walk-in. By that time, I had heard of walk-ins from one of my past life therapy colleagues who had worked with a woman, and they eventually tried to unravel the mystery of why she was allergic to absolutely everything here on Earth. That they determined that she was a walk-in. So I
She was allergic. Was she allergic to everything on Earth before the walk-in, or did it
no,
happen after the walk?
no,
After,
no, no, she wasn't allergic to anything until one morning she woke up and she was allergic to everything: animal hairs, dust, feathers, uh, most foods, everything growing outside. I mean, it was really a very difficult problem for her. And she had come to that regression therapist to try to find out what's going on and why did it come on so suddenly. So they determined after a number of different sessions that she was a walk-in. So now I'm going to describe briefly
well,
what a walk-in is.
well, I'm going to go back to ask more questions about that, Barbara. So, do you know if because she didn't know she was a walk-in, she didn't know what has happened. So there wasn't an instant that she remembers happening. Obviously, it happened during her sleep or something. So there
Yes.
must have been any painful event because you hear a lot of times walk-ins or occur when an event happens, like an accident or something where one soul leaves the body, one comes in. So she didn't remember anything like that happening.
No, and that's typical of all of the walk-ins I have come to know, that the process does happen during the sleep.
Hold on. So Lisa, she said she was 26 years old at that time.
Right. Uh-huh.
Hey, Nancy Jean. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. So tell everybody about what a walk-in is.
Okay, so a walk-in is a soul that is residing either in the extraterrestrial plane or the spiritual plane of existence, the spiritual dimension. And that soul wants very much to come to Earth to help humanity. And they don't want to go through the whole process of incarnating like the rest of us do, you know, being conceived, being conceived and, growing up in the mother's womb for 9 months or so, and then being born and going through infancy, childhood, teenage years, and all that time until they're old enough, adult enough to really be serving other human beings in a steady way. So instead of incarnating in that usual way, the soul decides to do a soul exchange with another person who's already here as a human. So in the meantime, there is a person here on Earth, could be a woman, it could be a man, and that person just doesn't want to be in life anymore. They're not necessarily going to commit suicide, but they just have given up. They just don't see the point of being here anymore and would kind of like to have it would happen that they would be able to leave.
Okay, well, let me just ask you a question about that too, because I just got a hit. A lot of times, those people that are wanting to leave have gone to in the direction of using some self-medication, self-medicating.
Sometimes, yes, often.
Okay.
Not in every case that I know of, but in many of them, yes. And that person might be in his or her 30s or 40s or 50s, still having quite a number of years left for the body to live. So that's a good one to come to. So these souls get together, unbeknownst to the human. The souls get together and make an agreement, a very firm, serious agreement, that at a certain time and place, the souls will meet, and the soul of the human will actually leave at the same time that the soul of the walk-in is coming into that body. So in other words, the original person in that body has gone and has gone on into the spirit realm where we all go when we die. So that one's going to be perfectly fine. And then the walk-in gets to have the opportunity to live here in that body and live the rest of that lifetime of that. And then,
purpose.
what's that?
Obviously, with a different purpose.
Oh yes, they're very different usually than the original person. So that happens usually when the human is very sound asleep and is not consciously aware that that's happening. But there has been that agreement, so there's no resistance on the part of the human when.
So let me stop you there again. So there's a pre-existing agreement.
Yes.
The human is unaware of that agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, the human is consciously not aware of it.
Okay.
But as it's happening, it's just fine from the point of view of the human because, oh, good, the soul saying, I get to leave. I get to leave. I don't have to slug along in this life anymore. And of course, the walk-in soul is just delighted to have a body to live in and work in and do the service that it is wanting to do.
Right. And so, it seems like to me that one that's coming in has taken a shortcut. So it didn't have to go through adolescence and childhood and early adulthood. they just skipped all that and took a shortcut and oh, this person doesn't want to stay in their body. They want to leave. Well, okay, let's exchange. Have I got the idea correct?
Exactly. Beautiful. And so it's a service to both of them because the walk-in gets to live here and do the work that the walk-in wants to do. And having taken the shortcut, as you said, and the other soul of the original person just doesn't have to put up with being here anymore.
Right.
So having that happen, the person will usually wake up with the new soul in it and the old soul gone. But it's the same body and the same life, the same family that person has had. So that person wakes up with a new soul, and everything seems to be so different.
What about the memories? Do they have the exact same memories that a new soul that's coming in? Because what's made the other person like they are is the experiences and the memories and the things that have happened to them. So here comes this new soul that hasn't emotionally or physically experienced these things, but maybe has kind of the memory that's left there of it, or how do you describe that?
Excellent question. Because the walk-in now is residing in the body that has a brain, the brain remembers all of the memories of the original person. However, the walk-in can remember all of those things, but doesn't have any emotional attachment to it.
Okay.
Because they didn't really happen to the walk-in.
So what if the walk-in, or the one that would the soul that left and the walk-in came in, and that person had children or a husband or a wife, or what happened?
In all cases that I know about, well, except for that first one I was starting to talk about, in many, many cases, they do have a husband and they are raising children. Or they might have children that have just barely grown up. And of course, they have the original family of the person whom they walked into. And so they have all those relationships and the friends and work partners and so forth. Everybody who was in the original person's life is still in the walk-in's life. And yet, as I said, there's no real emotional attachment to knowing those people. Now, I do know one person who walked in and then gradually, because that person she walked in on had children, she gradually learned to really, really love those children. She liked them right away at first, but she grew to really love them and really develop a wonderful relationship with them. And she developed a really close relationship with the original person's family.
How about
Now,
a spouse?
that family, of
Okay.
course, experienced her as very different
Right.
than she used to be. And it seemed like a sudden change. But still, over time, because the original person had been very loyal to her original parents and siblings. And so the walk-in just sort of took up on that and came to know them and love them too, which is they have a very close relationship. However, the marriage that original person was in could no longer sustain the new relationship because, as one of the walk-ins said, they just didn't have the same resonance.
Right.
They weren't interested in the same things, and
So ultimately they were divorced.
yeah. So in the
Yeah.
cases I know where there had been marriages, there were eventually divorces, sometimes after only 3 or 4 months, sometimes after a year or so, when it was just so apparent that, these two people are really, really different.
This would be the definition of growing apart.
Yeah, 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 there's kind of like
Well,
extreme
yeah,
growing
well,
apart.
yeah, I interrupted you with your case study that you were talking about, the 26-year-old, and asking the questions. So I apologize for that. So if you want to continue with
I
what,
would
yeah,
like to continue with her because it was my first case of working with somebody way back in 1992, I think it was. And anyway, luckily, I already knew about the walk-in phenomenon and recognized that that must have happened to her. And we did a regression, and it certainly confirmed that she had been an extraterrestrial being who had walked in upon a 26-year-old woman and continued life in that particular way. And eventually, within a year or so, she had acquired a property and developed it into a lovely little metaphysical bookstore, and with an extra speakers room. And she was already giving classes and teaching about spirituality, and sometimes teaching about other beings in space, because basically that's where she had come from
right.
in that particular case.
Did she
So,
have did she have anything other than her parents? Was she married or children or anything?
no, she was not married yet and didn't have children. She was living with her parents.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was simpler in that way. There didn't have to be a divorce or anything. I met with her another year, a year later, at that same conference, and did another regression. And it was a very happy thing that happened in the regression. Um, she was already running her metaphysical bookstore and teaching a class in that extra room. And so we went to the experience that she had one of those nights of teaching that class. And as she was teaching it and kind of walking around a little bit, she noticed from a window that was right there that there was somebody standing right outside the window. And as she continued her teaching and walking around a bit, she kept looking now and then, glancing out the window, and suddenly recognized, oh, that's my father,
Oh, wow.
her extraterrestrial father.
What kind of extraterrestrial was it? Do you know?
No, I never got the name of that type. I got a description of him from
Okay.
but not the name. I couldn't tell you about that.
But the
But
description is perfect. Yeah.
yeah, she excused herself from the class and went out and had a nice embrace with this man who was actually an extraterrestrial man, her father. And he said, I just came to check up on you and see that you're doing your mission that you came to do. And I'm very proud of you, very pleased. Good for you. Many blessings. And it was a short visit, but a lovely one.
Yeah.
And she was so pleased to see him and to know that he knew that she was doing what she came to do. And of course, he was very pleased. So then she went back into the room and continued her teaching. And I don't think she
Can
mentioned
can
to
you
the
just
class
can
that
you
that's what had happened.
can you describe what he looked like?
Well, he was very tall and very slim. Um, he had clothing on, but not like human clothing, more like some of the pictures that you see of some of the extraterrestrial beings, very tight fitting clothing. that sometimes can be mistaken for skin.
Right.
And he had bigger eyes. He looked like one of the more human types of extraterrestrials. I mean, he wasn't strikingly different
Yeah.
in look. I think there were features like he may have not had any hair. His eyes were larger than ours and not exactly like ours, but overall, he would appear to be like a tall, slim human man,
Right.
but
Okay.
not human. Yeah.
And was she the only one that could see him? Nobody else saw him?
No, no, it was outside. And she excused herself and said, I'm going to be gone for a few minutes. And you just go ahead and read the material I had given you. So I think that they were busy doing that and not looking out the window. But it was a very, very happy experience for her to be with one of her original types, and
Right.
particularly her father, extraterrestrial father, with whom she had a very nice relationship before coming here.
Yeah. So, okay. So she was a walk in and she came into this human body and that soul left and she came in and she was an extraterrestrial or an alien that came in. Did she have any recognition of that past life at that time before she recognized her father? Or did she just walk
She
into
had, she had a vague sense of it, of the type of being she had come from,
okay,
but it became more specific when she actually had that meeting with her father.
right,
So yeah, so that was wonderful because she could integrate it all better
right.
because of that meeting with her father. And of course, it was just a total delightful surprise. She had not anticipated that he might come and witness her teaching, but and it was nice to get the comments from him. You know,
And so
John.
how was her relationship with her human parents at this time? She still kept a really good relationship with them?
Yes, yes, and I have not seen them since the early 1990s or heard from them, but everything was going very well between her and the parents the last time I saw her.
And the parents knew that she was a walk-in.
Yes.
Okay. And so they were okay. Well, I guess of course they were okay with it. It was their daughter.
Oh, yeah. And she was wonderful.
Yeah.
The walk-in was very, very likable and very open to the parent. The parents were uh, what I would call good old salt of the earth people.
Hmm.
Just honest, good people, just going about their lives, doing their work and helping people where they could here and there. I mean, those were so it was a good family for her to walk into,
Right.
actually. And particularly since they were already open to the idea of UFOs.
Right.
Uh,
Because they had gone to the conference, so they were obviously already open to it.
yes, and that was definitely a UFO conference
Right.
run by Leo Sprinkle up in Wyoming. And anyway, that was the first walk-in whom I worked with. And then the second one was somebody in Southern California, about an hour away from where I was living. Somebody I knew her and didn't really know about walk-ins, but was really puzzled because she had changed so much immediately, just one day. And so this person told me about her and said, I'd like you to meet her and tell me what you think about her. And that person who told me I think, didn't really know about walk-ins at that point, didn't know there was such a thing.
Mhm.
But anyway, she just wanted she knew I knew about a lot of things that she didn't know about. And so she took me over to meet that walk-in woman. And that was a fairly young woman, too. She was probably around age 30. And she had been a biker wife. That means that,
Like a motorcycle biker wife?
yeah, she and her husband had been part of a big motorcycle group. And almost every weekend they would go on these motorcycle rides, all about 40 of them. And they'd go to other places in California, or they'd go to other states if they had a longer weekend. And they were rough and tumble, and they all drank beer and they smoked cigarettes and told nasty stories and just had a good old time. And they both, husband and wife, both just loved that way of life. And suddenly, this wife, one morning, just seemed completely different and said, I don't want to do that biking anymore. I just, I'm just not interested. That's just not who I am.
It
And
sounds
of
like
course,
that was a divorce waiting to happen then.
what is that?
I said, that sounds like that was a divorce waiting to happen since she changed so quickly.
Yes, yes. And the husband was really angry. Well, I'm going to keep doing these rides and I want you there. She said, no, I'm just not into it. Sorry. I just have no desire to do that. And he said, well, what about all your friends? And she said, well, I know they're just not going to be my friends anymore. Sorry. But I mean, I just am not interested in that whole way of life. So anyway, by the time I met them, she had been here for just a couple of months, but they had already decided that they couldn't be married anymore and were heading toward divorce. Now, she had come from a whole different place, not an extraterrestrial realm, but from a spiritual realm,
Okay.
another dimension. And she was here to really encourage spirituality among people. And when I met her that very first time, she'd been here, I think, only a couple of months by that time. But here she was wearing a long white flowing
Well,
dress.
the first thing when you said she came from another spiritual realm, I immediately saw angels, angel realm. And when
Uh,
then you go into describing how she was dressed, I'm going, okay, I guess that's the realm she came from. Like that,
yes.
well, it would be amazing that it's hard to fathom that a angel will want to walk into a human body and experience this 3D life with yeah, it just seems like that would be really hard to that would be a big challenge for an angel.
Oh, oh, yes. And she was dressed like an angel.
Yeah,
That's what I thought when I first saw her. She didn't have wings, but she had this
right.
beautiful long white uh, gown and a big flowing gown, the big full sleeves and something very nice on her hair. I think it was like little stars, like a little tiara
I
made
don't
of
know. Well, when my angel comes to Earth, she wears white jeans, white T-shirt, white
uh-huh.
shoes, and she has big blonde hair, and she has this bright light around her. Which I say, how can anybody miss that you're not an angel when you come to Earth? And it sounds like she's the same way. How can anybody miss that she's not an angel, a walk-in angel?
That's right. Yeah, and everything that she was talking about was definitely of a more spiritual nature, and she was talking about the work that she wanted to do to really increase people's spiritual understanding and raise their consciousness, raise their frequency. And these were the years before we were talking about ascension, but she's probably busy helping people to get ready for ascension. Now,
That's just
having,
to imagine how busy an angel would be here in 3D Earth with humans.
yeah.
It would be very busy.
So she's a very, very lovely, nice person. And I totally lost track of her. But I imagine she's very dedicatedly doing the work that she came to do.
Right.
And so that is wonderful. So there was a man too, who eventually, after a few years, who came and had a strong sense that he was a walk-in, but he wasn't sure. But that's one of the reasons why he came to me for a regression. And that was unusual in the sense that um, he walked in upon a young boy who was only, I think, about 10 years old.
So he
So,
didn't take that big of a shortcut. He tried childhood. Okay.
yeah, but he just felt that it would be important to have those teenage years
Mm-hmm.
here on Earth that the boy, of course, was going to have. And the boy was in circumstances that were very, very unhappy family, a lot of abuse going on and so forth. And so he was very glad to get out of here
Right.
and turn his body over to the walk-in. So I think that that's not the typical type of walk-in thing that people would usually hear about, if they hear about it at all. But anyway, it gave him more years to do the work that he is doing.
Well, how did that change him from a 10-year-old? How did that change him, and how did that change his family situation when he had to walk in?
Well, I know he left that family when he was quite young. He was probably about 16,
Mhm.
and he found a way to get out of there and to be with some other family, like a family of one of his friends who was willing to take him in, knowing it was pretty rough at his home. And he always, even during the teenage years, he was very dedicated to trying to help his fellow teenagers to see things in a different perspective, not from the usual reactive
Teenager.
way. Yeah, but he was always trying to sort of expand their thinking, expand their awareness. And of course, he's done that more as an adult, as a teacher, as kind of a life coach sort of person, not a licensed therapist, but a life coach, and always bringing people into that higher way of thinking about things
Yeah.
and be aware of the higher sources that they could call upon for help when they needed it. Uh, so that was good. So each walk-in, I think, has sort of a different method of doing service here to people. But
Right.
it all has to do with raising the consciousness of
Now,
humanity.
I know when you and Sheila wrote the book, you talked about the different types of walk-ins. Can you describe the different types of walk-ins? Because you basically described the one that is soul to soul exchange, and
Right.
there are different types of walk-ins. If
Yes, it's really a surprising number of different types, more and more complicated
Yeah.
types. In other words, there's what she calls braiding, and that means that one soul comes in and does the exchange with a person.
What did you call it again? What
Braiding.
braiding? Like braiding something. BRAIDING.
Well,
Braiding.
it's
Like
like
braiding your hair. Braiding your hair.
braiding. Yeah. And then after that walk-in is here for a while, another soul comes in to that same body and takes up residence in it, so that then those two walk-in souls work together. And sometimes that will go on for the rest of that life, working very cooperatively together.
3 souls in one body?
Two souls, yeah, two walk-in souls in one body.
2 walking, so the original soul leaves then when the braiding happens, when 2 souls come in, correct?
Yes, but in the cases that I know about, one soul comes in and lives in that body for a while, with the original soul having left, and
Okay.
then after a while, another soul comes in, and it would be the soul. The second one would be already very much in league with the original walk-in soul. In other words, for the same purpose, so that they can work together and in the one body. So
Okay.
if that works out well, the braided soul can stay for the rest of that body's life. Or it may be that the braided soul, the second soul, will leave after a while, after a number of years, and probably, find another.
Okay. Well, I've got a strange question because this is a phenomena that a lot of us experience, and I've experienced it also. Sometimes we feel like somebody's in our body looking through our eyes. Would
Oh,
that be a walk-in, or would that be something different?
well, it could be either. It could be a walk-in, or it could be more of a phenomenon that the extraterrestrials do, some of them. Some of the extraterrestrials will, when they're working with a particular human person, they will put an implant in the head, you see, behind the eyes, and through the implant in the person, they can see what the person sees.
Okay. I feel like that's more what the case is when more than the walk-ins. I think you're probably right about it being an implant and the extraterrestrial is looking through the human's eyes, because that soul is still there. The human soul is still there. So, okay. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but that question.
That's okay. Those are very, very good questions. So my opinion about this whole thing about walk-ins is that it's a very wonderful, helpful process. I'm glad that there is such a thing, because those walk-in souls bring so much to the humans around them, around the original soul. I mean, I think probably some of our greatest spiritual teachers could very well be walk-ins,
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. So,
whether they're
Lisa,
aware of it or not.
yeah, Lisa Davies has a great question. She says, "Has there ever been a negative walk-in experience?" I've never heard of one myself, but Barbara, you've seen so many more than I have. So, have
Yeah,
you?
well, many years ago, way before I ever heard about walk-ins, I was aware that there is such a thing as spirit possession.
Right.
Um, that's one term that is given to it. Another people might describe it as there's a spirit, in other words, a person who has died, and the spirit, instead of going into the spirit realm where we should all go, that spirit kind of hovers around the earth plane and will eventually get kind of lonely and want to be with a person, and will enter into that person and just simply reside there. Now, the person, so there's been no mutual agreement in
Right.
this situation. The person probably has never even heard of such a thing, and may eventually, with this new one inside, uh, may feel a little bit different, kind of like there's some sort of influence sometimes
Mhm.
going on.
I'm
Uh,
assuming negative influence. Is that correct?
It would tend to be a
Okay.
negative one, but not necessarily. But it's not like an enlightening difference either.
So,
Uh,
and most or all, generally the walk-ins that we think of are enlightening, but you're talking about basically a negative attachment from
right, a spirit attachment. So, in many cases, the soul that attaches in that way attaches to the outside of a person's body or inside the body and may live there for years and years. In many cases, that is true. I had some special training in this for a week long training back in 1986 and learned a lot about this. So, one of the outstanding examples that I know of is that there was an 11-year-old girl, just regular girl, regular family, perfectly decent family. The family would once in a while, like in a celebrative occasion, have one cocktail. So they had a liquor cabinet with some bottles of liquor, but wasn't a big deal. And the 11-year-old didn't see the parents drinking very often, only for celebrative purposes. But suddenly, one day, that 11-year-old girl started drinking alcohol. She kept raiding the parents' alcohol cupboard, taking out the bottles and drinking,
wow.
and to the extent of getting drunk. And she was really addicted, totally addicted to it. And the parents just couldn't imagine how this could have possibly happened. It wasn't like they were drinking all the time,
Mhm.
just on rare occasion. And they didn't get drunk. They didn't drink to that extent. But anyway, this went on for quite a while. And fortunately, they found William Baldwin, who had already become an expert in working with possessed entities like this.
Right.
And he was able to release that entity with the agreement of the entity and eventually the agreement of the girl. And after the entity left and went on into the light, which is where he should be, um, then the girl suddenly had no interest whatsoever in drinking.
Well, good. That's a great
Completely,
story. That's a good.
completely over that addiction. And I remember that one because that was so dramatic.
Yeah.
So we call that spirit possession.
Okay.
And it's not done with any agreement of the human.
Right.
And the human soul doesn't leave either. The person just keeps living that life and with maybe feeling a real emphasis on something like the alcohol. Or I know of somebody a teenager, who had a possession experience, unwanted, unagreed to. And that spirit had been very addicted to cigarettes. So suddenly, this teenager who really was showing no interest in smoking, and her parents didn't smoke, but suddenly she started craving cigarettes and going to this guy in a store, and with her allowance, would buy packs of cigarettes and just smoke them like mad. And she didn't understand why, and the parents didn't understand why, because they weren't even smokers. Uh, so that was another case of spirit possession. And when that spirit was released from her body, she no longer had any interest whatsoever in smoking cigarettes.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah,
let's get back to the different type of walk-ins. You explained the
right.
bed, so there's several other different types isn't that correct?
Yes. Well, one of them is a type of walk in who comes in just for a certain limited amount of time. In other words, just to get the original person into the track of giving more service. And once that is done, that walk in leaves, that soul just leaves. It's done its job.
So is that like maybe somebody's going through bad time in their life that this walk-in comes in and turns it around, or what is that called?
I've forgotten the name of that type, but anyway, it's just a sort of a brief walk-in experience, and a deliberate to accomplish a person, so a reason, so that person will be able to continue life in a better way.
Right. Can you give us examples of why that would happen, what that person's going through? That walk-in would come in briefly. Would that be like health issues or an accident, or?
Oh, it could be anything, or it could be that the person really has, let's say, intuitive and psychic abilities,
Mhm.
isn't using them, or has healing abilities and is not using them.
Okay.
And the walk-in can come in and
The
get
it's a kick out of it.
kind of kickstart the person will be using those abilities. And of course, in that case, if it's a very short term living in the person, the soul of the original person doesn't leave.
Okay, it stays.
There always has to be a soul
Okay.
in a person, in any person, right? So let's see, the intermittent ones. There's in some situations where the walk-in will come in now and achieve a certain purpose and leave, and then maybe a few years later will come into that person again, for helping that person to get on.
And that's an intermittent walk-in. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the braided ones, the intermittent.
So the intermittent ones, would that be that they would come in and kind of level the person up and then leave and then come back in and level the person up? Is that what's going on with the intermittent ones?
Right.
Or trying to get the person back on track if they've gotten off track?
Yes, that too.
So have you
further or get them back on track if they've gotten off track?
So how do you know which one is which when you're doing your regression therapy on these different type of walk-ins, or can you tell the different types?
Well, very often in that type of regression, the walk-in will speak.
Oh, okay, yeah.
To the person, and the walk-in knows. The person may not know,
Right.
but the walk-in in the person does know, and gives a lot of information. And sometimes those regressions will go into a lot of emphasis on where that walk-in had come from.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it had come from an extraterrestrial group, it will talk about that, and the human, which the walk-in is in, who has come for regression, will experience being with that group of extraterrestrials that the walk-in came from.
During the regression, they do.
Yeah. So sometimes it's happened that I'm thinking right now of a few cases where a person came and they sensed that they didn't know they were a walk-in, but they sensed that they were having somehow visits from these other beings, extraterrestrial beings, and they wanted to know more about that. And in those regressions, they find that they are taken by other beings to what certainly seems to be a different planet, and shown around the planet, and shown the kinds of beings that they used to be.
Right, showing them home.
Yes. And the person who's being regressed, of course, who is the walk-in, often has a feeling of great familiarity with those beings that he or she is taken to, and the whole kind of life and the the whole environment. Like a couple of times, it's happened that the person in the regression uh, was taken to another planet, which was a very watery planet,
Mhm.
and the person experienced in the regression going into the water, like going into the sea, and being able to live perfectly well, breathing the way a fish would, under the water, not the way that we humans do, and then would come out of the water and onto the shore and be able to change to the kind of breathing that we do.
Right.
That's
I
happened to
have
two different people.
I've experienced that myself, and then it's amazing how free you feel when you go into the water and you're
Oh,
experiencing that. Me, I've experienced the whale body, and I've also experienced a mermaid body, but the feeling of when you go into that water like that, how good that feels and how
yeah.
good it feels against your body. There's no way to hardly describe how good that feels.
Ah, yes, that's exactly what these people are experiencing in those regressions. It's just a lovely feeling and very familiar. It's so natural to
Yes.
them. And it kind of indicates that that is where they had come from,
Mm-hmm.
for it to be so natural and so wonderful,
It's
so
free.
so
It's freeing. Yeah.
completely safe. I mean, for me, I would feel very unsafe if
Yeah.
I had to try to breathe
Yeah, because I do
under
like
the
water and I like to swim, but it's nothing. There's no way you can describe how a human experiences the water versus being a whale or a mermaid. How you experience it like that. There's no
right,
way to describing that. It's so
right.
different. But anyway,
And
Barbara, we're coming up to an hour, so I want you to let everybody know how to get a hold of you if they're wanting to have regression therapy.
oh,
How the best way to get a hold of you.
okay, thank you. Yes, my website is the best way, and that is Barbara Lamb, Lamb, regression.com, www.barbaralambregression.com. And also, if they'd like to hear other podcasts about uh, other subjects of an unusual nature, uh, I think people have found those very interesting. You can go to my YouTube channel, which is Barbara Lamb ET Regressions. Barbara Lamb ET Regressions YouTube. And there's a whole bunch, uh, several podcasts also on my website. But on the website, there is a place, if you scroll through, where you can leave a message. It's like writing an email, and that gets transferred to my email, and I pick it up, and uh, eventually I answer. I'm behind about 16 of them right now. I've got to get just too busy to get them done, but I will eventually answer that, and that starts the process of giving you information about the regressions and the cost and the way that we can do them, and to then give me a text message for us to really negotiate a time, and whether it's online or whether in person. I'm in San Diego, California, so many people come here, and just as many people do sessions online because they're not close enough to come here, which is wonderful that the internet has allowed us to work like this, because I have people doing regressions with me from literally all over the world.
Yeah.
As long as they could speak English and we can figure out the time zones, we
Times
can,
can be
do it.
challenging. So, but anyway, well, thanks, Barbara, for being here. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, everybody, for coming in and watching us. And thanks, moderators, for making this a safe place to talk. Oh, and there is about her walk-ins. You'll pull it back a little bit or more towards your face, Barb. Put it in front of your face. Back up a little bit. See if you can back up.
Okay.
It's still blurry, but tell us what the name of it is. Cosmic Convergence.
Cosmic Convergence by Sheila Seppi and Barbara Lamb. And that gives lots of information about walk-ins and star seeds and hybrids.
Yes.
Then I have a whole book on, well, it's too bad that doesn't show
It doesn't do that for
the hybrids.
Yeah, we're going to do hybrids next time. So we'll talk about that next time. So anyway, thanks everybody. And my next show will be on Saturday, where we'll be doing the Solaris Healing Center. So anybody who has any medical issues or any kind of issues, you can bring that in. And I'll be doing that show with Terry on Saturday. So, all right, everybody, thank you for joining us, and we will see you later. Thanks again, Barbara.
Okay, thank you.